Richard. This is your second book. Was this one easier to write than An Artful Remedy?
Oh, hi Peter. No, actually it was harder. This book's actually got quite a different style to it, but it's certainly faster paced. And I had to go through several rewrites to try and get the style right, so it was actually turned out to be a much harder book to write in that respect.
Has there been much of a shift in characters?
Completely. I think my first book, An Artful Remedy, had a mix of characters, some of whom were quite dark. Well, certainly one of them was. Whereas in this book, I think the characters are more rounded and less, what would you say, they're not quite as clear-cut as individuals. And certainly the main protagonist goes through quite a journey, and I hope that I've portrayed that in the book, that he's developing as he goes along, as the experiences tend to come at him.
Now, you've probably been asked this a dozen times, but what motivated you to become a writer?
Well, it's something I always wanted to do. I mean, I loved stories when I was a kid. I loved people telling stories, and I loved the idea that reading a book could take you out of yourself, take you to a different world. And you know, I fell in love with some of the very basic stuff when I was very young, some of the Uncle Scrooge comics, and as I got older, some of the Tintin comics. But you know, that was one of the influences on me, that this idea that people can embark on an adventure which is quite different from their everyday lives. And I really loved that aspect of storytelling. And so throughout my life, I've sort of played with the idea of becoming a writer and moving into that mode of being able to tell stories and be able to take people to a different place. It took a long time before I finally was able to. I had an abortive attempt when I was in my mid-20s that I quickly realised that I didn't really have the skill sets to do it at that stage. But I accumulated some more life experiences and eventually was able to do it. So,
the locations in DEVIOUS make you want to visit a travel agent. Adelaide to Paris, Malta, Stockholm, Madrid, and then to London. Have you travelled to all these locations?
Yes, I have, yes. I was based in the UK for about 30 years, and a lot of that time I spent travelling as part of my occupation. I was in the IT industry managing territories, and so I managed the stretch of territory from Scandinavia all the way down to South Africa. Yeah, some of those locations I'm really quite fond of. You know, for, Malta, for example, I think it's just a wonderful place, and it made it very easy to write about it. Now, I think it's important to write about things you know, and so I try to make everything as realistic as possible. It's all based on facts or my personal experiences. And the locations themselves, I try to describe from first-hand experiences.
Did these locations inspire you to write the book?
Oh, not really. I think the inspiration for the book came from other experiences I had, but certainly they provide a good backdrop to make things interesting. I think it's always interesting to read about different places that you might not have been to or that you have been to. And it's nice if you have been to those places to be able to recognise some of the places I'm describing or the feelings that I'm describing about those places.
Tell me about the main character. Is he based on your experiences?
In part. I think probably the combination of the main character and Professor Harry Pett, who's his mentor throughout the story. I guess the combination of those two are based on some of my experiences as a person. The main character himself is obviously prepared to take a lot more risks than I ever would have been in my life. But some of the story itself is certainly based on experiences that I've been through.
Well, congratulations, Richard, on your second book, DEVIOUS, and for spending time with me for the interview.
Well, thank you very much, Peter.